Your Honor, before you sentence him, there's something you need to know.
You, a janitor? Since when do I have you removed?
I've stayed silent for 15 years because I swore an oath.
The only oath you ever took was to clean these floors.
Then ask the FBI why they told me to keep watching, and why today's trial was never supposed to happen.
Your Honor, don't say another word.
What is the meaning of this?
Because the man you've been humiliating isn't just your janitor. He's the reason we're here to arrest someone today.
The courtroom doors closed behind Marcus Reed, but the humiliation he had faced moments earlier still echoed in his mind. For 15 years, Marcus had walked through the same courthouse halls with a mop in his hand. He cleaned the floors, emptied the trash, and watched powerful people decide the fate of others. But no one ever asked about his past. No one cared why a man with such discipline chose to live a quiet life as a janitor. Judge Harold Whitmore had always seen him as invisible. To the judge, Marcus was just another worker who belonged in the background. But Marcus knew something the judge didn't. Every night after the courthouse emptied, Marcus wasn't just cleaning floors. He was searching for the truth. 15 years earlier, Marcus had lost everything after a case that destroyed his reputation. A case where evidence disappeared. Witnesses changed their stories, and powerful people walked away without consequences. The world believed Marcus was guilty, but Marcus knew he had been framed. He had spent years collecting small pieces of information, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth. And today was supposed to be that moment. As Marcus stood outside the courtroom, he looked at the old courthouse walls. Those walls had witnessed his pain. They had witnessed his silence. And soon, they would witness his justice. Inside the courtroom, Judge Whitmore continued reviewing the case documents, completely unaware that the man he had mocked was about to change everything. Because Marcus Reed was not just a janitor. He was the missing piece in a 15-year-old secret that someone powerful had tried to bury forever. For years, Marcus Reed had mastered the art of being invisible. He learned that powerful people rarely noticed the person cleaning the room they controlled. Every morning, he walked through the courthouse carrying his cleaning supplies while lawyers rushed past him. Judges made decisions, and criminals heard their sentences. But behind his quiet face was a story nobody knew. A story filled with betrayal, pain, and a promise he made to himself. 15 years ago, Marcus was not holding a mop. He was standing in the same courtroom as a respected investigator who uncovered something dangerous. He had discovered that evidence from a major financial fraud case had been manipulated. Millions of dollars had disappeared. Innocent people had been blamed. And someone powerful had protected the truth. Marcus thought exposing the corruption would bring justice. Instead, it destroyed his life. The people he trusted abandoned him. His reputation was destroyed overnight. The media called him a criminal. The court called him guilty. But Marcus never stopped fighting. He spent years collecting documents, studying old records, and waiting for the one piece of evidence that could prove everything. And that piece of evidence was finally found. Inside a hidden archive room beneath the courthouse, Marcus discovered a forgotten record connected to the original case. A record that proved someone inside the justice system had hidden the truth. Someone who had the power to erase evidence. Someone who had made sure Marcus would stay silent forever. As Marcus looked at the old documents in his hands, he knew the time had come. He wasn't looking for revenge. He was looking for justice. Meanwhile, Judge Harold Whitmore sat comfortably in his office, believing his past was buried forever. He had no idea that the quiet janitor he mocked in front of everyone was carrying the one secret that could destroy everything he built. Marcus Reed had spent 15 years waiting for this moment. Not for revenge. Not for fame. For the truth. Every morning, people walked past him without a second glance. They saw a janitor pushing a cleaning cart through the courthouse halls. They never saw the man who once uncovered one of the biggest secrets hidden inside the justice system. After discovering the forgotten documents in the old archive room, Marcus knew he had finally found the missing link. But he also knew one thing. A single piece of evidence was not enough. He needed to prove that someone had intentionally buried the truth. Marcus carefully studied every page inside the old file. Bank records, court documents, private communications. each piece connected to the same hidden operation. Someone had changed the evidence 15 years ago. Someone had made innocent people look guilty. And someone had made sure Marcus would take the blame. Marcus looked at the old documents and remembered the day his entire life collapsed. The day people stopped believing him. The day he lost his career. The day he lost the respect he had spent years building. But what hurt the most was not losing his job. It was knowing that the truth was standing right in front of everyone. And nobody wanted to see it. Marcus placed the documents back into the folder. He knew exposing the truth would not be easy. Powerful people protect their secrets, and secrets fight back when they are threatened. Later that day, Marcus returned to his normal duties inside the courthouse. He pushed his cleaning cart through the hallway like always. People ignored him like always. But this time, Marcus was different, because he was no longer just the man cleaning the floors. He was the man carrying the truth. Across the building, someone was already watching him. The people who buried the secret 15 years ago had noticed something had changed. They didn't know what Marcus had discovered yet, but they knew one thing. The quiet janitor who disappeared into the background. 4 years was finally stepping into the light. And when the truth came out, nobody inside that courthouse would be able to hide from it. Marcus Reed knew that finding the truth was only the beginning. The hardest part was proving it. For 15 years, the people responsible had controlled the story. They had shaped the evidence, influenced opinions, and made sure nobody questioned what really happened. But now Marcus had something they never expected, a reason to fight back. That evening, Marcus returned to his small apartment with the evidence folder hidden inside. His old work bag. The room was quiet. The same room where he had spent countless nights studying old records, searching for answers that everyone else had forgotten. He placed the folder on the table and opened it carefully. Every document brought back memories. The accusations. The whispers. The people who turned away from him. The moment he realized the system he trusted had failed him. Marcus picked up one document that changed everything. It was a financial record connected to the old case. A record that proved the missing money had not disappeared randomly. It had been moved through a hidden account. An account created under a false name. But behind that false name was someone powerful. Someone who had the ability to make evidence disappear. Marcus knew he was close. But he also knew he was in danger. People who hide the truth for years don't give it up easily. The next morning, Marcus returned to the courthouse. He walked through the same hallway where he had been humiliated. But this time, he noticed something different. People were watching him. Not because they respected him. Because they were curious. Rumors had started spreading. Some people wondered why an ordinary janitor was spending so much time near the old records. Marcus ignored the attention. He continued his work, because he knew patience was his greatest weapon. Meanwhile, the pressure inside the courthouse was growing. Old files were being requested. Records were being reviewed. Questions were beginning to appear. And for the first time in 15 years, the people who thought the past was buried started feeling afraid. Marcus spent hours organizing the evidence. He created a timeline of everything that happened. Every missing document. Every changed record. Every person who benefited from the corruption. And then he found something unexpected. A small note hidden inside one of the old files. It was written 15 years ago. The handwriting was unfamiliar. The message was short. But the meaning was powerful. Marcus Reed was telling the truth. They made sure nobody would believe him. Marcus stared at those words for a long time. For 15 years, he wondered if anyone knew what really happened. Now he had his answer. Someone had known. Someone had tried to help him. But that person had disappeared before they could reveal the truth. Marcus looked out the window. He understood something important. This was bigger than his own name. Bigger than his own reputation. There were other people who had been hurt because of the same lies. And if he stayed silent now, the people responsible would win again. The next day, Marcus prepared to return to the courtroom. Not as a janitor. Not as a forgotten man. But as someone carrying the truth that could change everything. And somewhere inside the courthouse, the people who thought they had buried the past forever were about to discover one painful lesson. The truth can be hidden, but it never stays buried forever. Marcus Reed knew that the closer he got to the truth, the more dangerous things would become. For 15 years, the people behind the corruption had lived comfortably because everyone believed their story. But now, one man who had been ignored for years was slowly breaking apart. The lie they created. Marcus continued investigating the hidden documents. Every page revealed another piece of the puzzle. The bank records showed unusual transactions. The court files showed missing information. And the timeline proved that someone had deliberately changed the outcome of the original case. But there was one problem. Marcus needed the original evidence. The evidence that disappeared 15 years ago. Without it, the people responsible could simply deny everything. That night, Marcus returned to the old archive room beneath the courthouse. The room was cold and silent. Thousands of forgotten files surrounded him. He searched through boxes that had been untouched for years. Then, behind a damaged cabinet, he found something hidden. A small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and a copy of an old security record. Marcus carefully read the note. It revealed that someone inside the courthouse had secretly copied the original evidence before it was destroyed. Someone knew the truth. Someone tried to protect it. Marcus felt a wave of emotion. For years, he thought he was completely alone. But now he knew there was someone who believed him. The security record showed something even more shocking. On the night the evidence disappeared, a person connected to the courthouse had entered the evidence room. And that person had authorization from someone with the highest authority. Marcus looked at the record again. His hands tightened around the paper. He finally understood. This was never just about a mistake. This was a planned operation. Someone had built an entire system to hide the truth. Marcus placed the evidence safely inside his folder. He knew he was getting closer. But he also knew the people involved would not wait quietly. The next morning, Marcus noticed something different. His office area had been searched. Some of his personal notes were missing. Someone had entered his space. Someone knew he was investigating. For the first time in 15 years, Marcus felt the same fear he felt when everything was taken from him. But this time, he wasn't the same man. Back then, he had lost everything because he was alone. Now, he had the truth. And he was ready to fight for it. Because some secrets are powerful. But the truth is more powerful when someone finally has the courage to reveal it. Marcus Reed understood that the game had changed. For 15 years, he had been searching for answers. Now, the people who wanted those answers buried forever were searching for him. But Marcus refused to run. He had spent too many years living in silence. That morning, he arrived at the courthouse earlier than usual. He walked through the same halls where people once whispered his name with suspicion. The same halls where he was treated like a criminal. But this time, he walked differently. He wasn't afraid anymore. Marcus carried a small folder containing the evidence he had collected. Not everything. Just enough to prove that the truth was still alive. He knew one mistake could destroy his chance. So he decided to be careful. He needed someone who could verify what he had found. Someone outside the courthouse. Someone who couldn't be controlled. Marcus spent hours organizing every document. He connected every missing piece. The hidden accounts. The altered records. The evidence that vanished. Everything pointed toward a much bigger conspiracy than he originally imagined. But then Marcus found something that stopped him completely. A document with his own name on it. A document created 15 years ago. It wasn't an accusation. It was a warning. Someone had written that Marcus was in danger because he was getting too close to the truth. The note explained that powerful people wanted him removed from the investigation permanently. Marcus stared at the paper. For years, he believed the world had simply turned against him. Now he realized something much darker. Someone had planned his downfall from the beginning. At that moment, Marcus heard footsteps outside the archive room. Someone was coming. He quickly closed the folder and turned around. A shadow appeared near the doorway. Marcus stood still. He didn't know who was there. He didn't know if this person came to help him or to stop him. The door slowly opened. Marcus prepared himself for whatever came next. Because after 15 years of silence, the truth was finally starting to speak. And once the truth came out, there would be no way to put it back in the dark. Marcus Reed stood outside the courtroom doors, holding the evidence folder tightly in his hands. For 15 years, he had imagined this moment, the moment when he would finally walk into that courtroom and tell the world what really happened. But now that the moment was close, he understood something. Truth alone was not enough. The truth needed courage. And Marcus had spent 15 years building that courage. He entered the courthouse office area and began preparing everything carefully. Every document had to be organized. Every detail had to be clear. Because he knew the people he was challenging had power, money, and influence. One mistake could give them another chance to escape. Marcus reviewed the evidence one more time. The hidden bank transactions. The missing case files. The secret note from someone who tried to protect him. Everything connected. But then he found something he had never noticed before. A small symbol on one of the documents. It was the mark of a federal investigation. Marcus froze. This meant the case had been bigger than he thought. Someone outside the courthouse had been watching. Someone had known about the corruption. And someone had been collecting evidence quietly. Marcus realized there was a reason the truth survived for 15 years. It was never completely destroyed. It was hidden, waiting for the right person to find it. Later that afternoon, Marcus walked through the courthouse hallway. People who once ignored him now looked at him differently. They could sense something had changed. The quiet janitor who always stayed in the background was no longer invisible. He was carrying something powerful. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse, pressure was beginning to rise. Old records were being requested. Questions were being asked. And people who thought they controlled everything started becoming nervous. Marcus stopped for a moment and looked at the courtroom doors. Behind those doors was the place where his life had been destroyed. But soon, it would become the place where his name was restored. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. Because after 15 years of silence, Marcus Reed was finally ready to make the truth impossible to ignore. Marcus Reed stood outside the courtroom doors, knowing that everything he had worked for was about to be tested. 15 years of silence. 15 years of pain. 15 years of waiting for someone to finally listen. He looked down at the evidence folder in his hands. Inside were the documents that could expose the truth and restore the name. That had been taken from him. But Marcus knew something important. The truth would not come out just because he had evidence. He had to be brave enough to stand against people who had more power than him. He opened the courtroom doors and walked inside. The same room that once destroyed his life now became the place where he would fight to rebuild it. Marcus placed the evidence folder on the table. Every step he took felt like carrying the weight of 15 years. People inside the courthouse watched him differently now. The man they ignored for years was no longer invisible. He was someone with answers. Marcus carefully arranged the documents, the hidden transactions, the missing records, the proof that someone had manipulated the system. Then he found the final piece. A recorded statement from a person who had witnessed what happened 15 years ago. A person who knew Marcus was innocent from the beginning. Marcus listened to the recording one more time. The voice revealed that the evidence against him had been created deliberately. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. A plan designed to protect powerful people and destroy anyone who tried to expose them. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. All those years of being called guilty. All those years of being judged by people who never knew the truth. It finally made sense. He wasn't defeated because he was weak. He was defeated because someone was afraid of what he knew. Marcus picked up the evidence folder. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed. The day the truth would finally stand in front of everyone. But before leaving, Marcus looked back at the courtroom one last time. He remembered the man he was